This reading is the first blip on the screen of, I think, a new movement in sensors. I invented a sensor that was probably 1,000 times more sensitive than anything anybody knows. Skin galvanics, EKG, any of that. This is much more sensitive than any of those readings. And this was a typical event in which I raised the money for this, put the team together. We rented the laboratory and the right scientists to do experiments with this system. And I knew it was going to work, because I've seen the future. And this is the first, I was taking a picture of the very first blip that came on the screen. Now watch this. Then I turned around and snapped these guys who were just getting it. This is the moment of discovery. This is a look on, my God, the thing works, on every one of their faces. And I've seen this look many times over the years. Most people go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When you access universal intelligence, you can go 1, 5. Think how much time that's going to save us now. And all of you, by the way, can do this because you're all hooked up. It's just a matter of practice. How do you get to heaven? Practice, practice, practice. Okay. I started out experimenting when I finally finished all the shamanism and all the, what you might call the ancient modalities of healing. And believe me, I've been around the world, and I've seen people healed by holy men, holy women, holy rocks, holy trees, holy places, holy water, and holy moly. I've seen people cured by absolute fakes that got genuine healings. Now, what that tells me is that everything works. I haven't seen anything that doesn't work. The trick is find what works for you. If you're in a modality, a philosophy, or a way of life that isn't giving you the desired results, change channels. Try something else. It'll pay off. Change is always profitable. Ask Gaia. He's a master of change. Now, anybody recognize this guy in the picture? He's very important in future history. Anybody recognize him? See through me? Cleve Backster. Cleve Backster is the man who discovered plants have feelings back in the 60s. Remember that? All that stuff? When I was on the other side seeing the future, I saw certain names and certain images. One of the biggest, actually, was Cleve Backster. In the future, he is a popular saint. What he discovered in his lifetime, in our time, was of such universal importance to consciousness that we didn't grasp it right away. What he has discovered is primary perception and the proof of it repeatedly. That everything in the universe is in touch with everything else simultaneously without a time lag. And he performs experiments every day, or almost every day, down in San Diego in his laboratory that proves this to anybody that wants to see it in ways in which scientists can't argue, but be amazed. When I got back and got some funding finally, I immediately hired Cleve as a consultant to meet him. And I have since dedicated myself to whatever he needs. This man will never suffer. And when he's old and ready to retire, I never want him to want for anything. I'll make sure he doesn't want for anything. Incredible mind, by the way. I have him in my think tanks as much as I can. Just having his mind there is mind-blowing with the things that he comes up with and the insights. It's just amazing character. I suggest that if you have the heart to support him, he's pretty much supporting himself with just a few people helping him. He does deserve your support. Fantastic being. This is one of the lasers we started out with. This little one over here with the light on is much better than this one. 100 times better. And it's not a laser, by the way. This is how big and clunky they were in the beginning. And we have since reduced it quite dramatically with breakthroughs in these sessions that I do. This led us to the field of bio-photonics, which has been around about 30 years, a little over 30 years, big in Europe. But international journals, it's a legitimate field. Most people haven't even heard about it in the States, but it is big. Biophotonics is really the future of technology and medicine. light again. We're all going to the light. Have you noticed the light consciousness in the world today? Shoes with lights, light beer, everything's light, light, light. You know. Have you seen the lollipops with the kids with the lights in them? Isn't that wild? You actually light up with a light. That's because we need the light. We are returning to the light. We are light, and we're about to return to it in consciousness. We live exclusively on light. We are just totally, absolutely light beings. So biophotonics is a very legitimate field. We found our niche in this field, and our niche is something that, like Apple Computer discovered. You know, there was a big glitch, a big niche in that nobody had home computers, so they filled the need. What we have discovered is that once a doctor's finished with you, you have to do the healing. So we have a system that promotes that 5 times the normal rate at this point, maybe more in the future. But we don't replace anything doctors do. I really respect doctors. But when they're finished with the surgery, when they're finished with the nose job, when they're finished with whatever, we can assist you in healing very rapidly, because the sooner you heal, the less complications show up. Especially if you've done surgery on anything that cuts a meridian. Scar tissue builds then across the meridian and does affect your energy body. You don't know how many people I've talked to in over 3,000 cases that say, I had the operation was successful, but I've had a pain in this leg ever since. Or my energy's never been the same since the operation. That's because they cut your electrical lines, and then scar tissue builds across it. These units will cause even old scar tissue to be regenerated by causing the scar tissue to generate capillaries, thus bringing it back into living flesh again, and your meridians will reestablish themselves automatically. It's one of the things we think is very important, but a little bit metaphysical for doctors. But they do believe that reduction of scar tissue, both internally and externally, is important. So we're not out to replace anything that doctors do. In fact, we only work with doctors and psychologists. So I haven't found a doctor yet that doesn't think that this makes them look like a wizard. You know. The other thing too is that this will get you off pain medication fast. I'm saying pain medication, not other medication. And I haven't found a doctor yet that thinks that's a bad idea, honestly. I haven't found a doctor that doesn't think getting off pain medication is a good idea. You know. So that led us to where we are with biophotonics and light. And I finally, after all these years of many think tanks, I had the money to hire the Star Wars people, and I did. I used to think I needed super geniuses, and now we know we don't. We just need workmen. So we used to hire all the best geniuses in the world, and it was all very confusing, but they all believed in what we were doing, and they all were giving us parts of the puzzle. But we had Star Wars engineers in, we had tops in every field that I could put together. I put physicists together with molecular biologists and electrical engineers and scalar engineers and all that sort of thing. People had never thought about working together before. In these think tanks, it took a number of years to get to where we are so that we could bring out this technology. And then we did a lot of testing before we even thought about selling a product. So what comes next is our work is based on an awful lot of scientific research done in laboratories, double-blind placebos, all of that. Our work is based on this. We come in and replace the lasers with a much richer energy. Our energy is much richer than lasers and causes a much better effect, and FDA gets crazy over lasers, and lasers can hurt your eyes if you stare in them long enough. As far as FDA is concerned, and I was at the meetings, we are safer than a heat lamp, and they don't regulate heat lamps. We don't make any claims that we can't prove. We're just not into that. We're not into hyping people. It does miracles as it is. So we have awful lot of solid research that our work is based on that we have been able to repeat and surpass. Our company intends to be the leader in regeneration technology, because I'll tell you where this is going. I'm going to show you some pictures in a minute, and if you can see what this can do, where do we get the full body unit? You're going to go back to puberty. Our company plans to be and is moving to the point of full body regeneration by turn of the century. I promise you. Oh, I'll go back to this in case some of you didn't see it. Oops, oh, reverse. Okay. In 35 years of research in Europe and America, all of these have been studied in the laboratory and in clinical research. All of them. I'm going to take off my coat for a minute here. Warmed up in here, didn't it? We have chosen a number of these to specialize in with this unit, the handheld unit, and our other units, which we have listed on our info paper, by the way. But all of these, and more actually, this isn't even the whole list, have been studied in the laboratory, mostly in Europe and documented. Carpal tunnel, one of the easiest things that we do. We are excellent with carpal tunnel and repetitive stress injuries. We can reduce the inflammation and pain to where you won't need surgery, and then if you're working, you can put your wrist in it and it'll take out the pain immediately and bring down the swelling, avoiding surgery. Now, GM Motor Company has been using a $3,000 laser that has to be used by a doctor that has only one frequency for carpal tunnel since 1992. We have all of their paperwork because they're very open about it. One single frequency laser on carpal tunnel has saved GM $200 million in surgery and off work time since 1992, and they have documented that themselves. We are about to introduce this to that kind of a corporation. A laser has to be used by a licensed laser technician. That costs money. $3,000 laser with only one frequency, slice me a break. You're really getting ripped off for your money. We can do that for this under $200 and give you a richer healing environment. So we think we're going to do pretty well with this company, just in repetitive stress injuries alone in this new industry. We also have recently got in writing, Dr. Tina Carew is coming on board with our company. She is the most quoted, the most advanced photobiologist in the world with the Russian Academy of Sciences. She is the most quoted photobiologist in the world. And we have used a lot of her work in our research, and she has done the molecular studies of what one photon can do to you at the molecular level. It's absolutely astounding, and it's in our yellow papers out there if you want to read it. One photon can cause chain reaction in a positive way of many thousands of molecules. That's why this works so fast. The energy of one photon is so powerful at the right wavelength and frequency that it can cause a tremendous effect. That's why our technology is made to work within 5 to 15 minutes for most people. That's all you need, period. We could make it longer if you want to, but why bother? We could make it shorter. We could get it down to 3 minutes, but everybody misses the timing on that one. So we've come out to a balance that everybody can deal with. In the future, I see this technology working at light speed. I see no limit at regenerating the human body at the nuclear level. You live at the light level, at the nuclear level. There are nothing but photons and that sort of thing at the nuclear level. And so I see a system in the future that's like a flash. Once a day. You've got your energy downloaded to reverse the entropy equation. You're going to start looking younger and staying younger longer. The good thing about these photonic devices, too, is that the sooner you start using them as health maintenance, the better and younger you're going to stay. Once you've lost your hair, it's a different equation than keeping you from losing your hair in the first place. Photonics in Germany and our units are going to keep you from losing your hair if you'll just use it a little bit each day, if you think you're the kind that are going to lose your hair, and a lot of guys will. But the sooner you start using it, the better. The Germans have made advances in growing hair back, and the unit costs $12,000. We have come up with a better unit for about $300. That's because up till now the Europeans have had no competition. So although they're good units, they're extremely, extremely overpriced and limited because they're still using a limited range of frequencies. This is one of the type of studies. We do thermal studies, we do photographics. You can see how the light spreads and gets in there, and that's really photoactivating cells in two ways. The light stimulates a photochemical and a photoelectric effect in the body, both of which are very important for regeneration. In other words, we can really charge your battery and then your body does the healing. All healing is self-healing. This is a stimulation unit that downloads the energy that triggers the body into its own healing for hours and days later. In the laboratory, when we used it on living human nerve cells, a simple 5-minute exposure kept the nerve cells regenerating for 10 days. I regenerated my knuckle, and you can look at it later that I lost the top of my knuckle to the bone and regenerated it completely using this system. And it didn't even scab while it was regenerating. Nerves, everything. And we have photos of it. It's on video. These lasers may have one frequency. In this unit right here with the lights on, this little unit, which is all I'm showing you tonight, this is the rich environment of healing frequencies that I discovered and that we download into your body with extremely fine harmonics and a rich healing environment of energy downloaded. Your body does not resist photonics. Your body soaks photons up like a sponge. Now, many of you may have tried those little zapper units and stuff like that, or electronic units that cause a current to go across the skin. Your skin is designed to keep that out, so that's why it takes a lot of voltage, and that's why it tingles, and that's why it stings like a bee when you use it. Your body is resisting most of the energy, and then the energy is being forced across the skin barrier. And there's been good results with that, TENS units and other things over the years, but this is infinitely better, and it won't sting you or hurt. And with TENS units, people have gotten burned, and with every 10 units we've tested, there's a page of like 17 or 18 things that say don't do, and every one of those is things that we say do. I don't mean do, I mean do. So we're quite proud. We took a lot of time to develop this, and it took me a while, after think tank after think tank, of working with this person, that consultant, this everybody, to put together a team finally that could take what I learned on the other side and bring it down to a practical application in schematics, electrical designs, custom circuit boards, and custom diodes. I have the team now that can manifest, I think, all the knowledge I learned on the other side about healing and light technology. And I'm very, very happy and privileged and honored to have these people working for us. And they're some of the tops in the field that can I can come up with an idea, and they can build it for me now. Okay, here's some of the slides of our work that we have done, and again, only with this unit you're seeing tonight. I'm not going to show you any pictures that were done with other units. We have all kinds of other special units that we'll be introducing to the medical field. This woman, 70 years old, chemotherapy. She had brain cancer. They did the brain cancer operation and then immediately put her on full-blown chemo. Nice, huh? I knew this woman. I wanted to help her. This area is from the tape and the needle in her arm. You touched her, she'd bruise because they wiped out her immune system right after the surgery. She had a lower white cell count than an AIDS patient. She couldn't eat fresh fruit. You couldn't sneeze around her. I knew her before the chemotherapy, and I watched what it did to her. I'm not putting it all down, but I'm saying it didn't help her at all, especially after major surgery to wipe out your immune system. I don't know. That doesn't sound right, does it? Or am I crazy? Am I weird? Am I the only one weird that sees something weird in that? I asked the chemo doctor, by the way, I said, do you ever take a shot of this stuff? He looked at me like I was nuts. I think they ought to in medical school. Give them a shot of this stuff. See what it tastes like. Also, during her chemotherapy, and this is typical with chemotherapy patients, they never addressed her diet. You know what they had her drinking? Was those canned drinks. Yeah, Ensure. I mean, that was the extent of their nutritional information. So she was pretty bad off when we started treating her. She had these all over her body. And we were able to go in just one 15-minute session per day with this unit to new flesh in just a few days, 4 days, to new flesh and healing. And this was a woman that was dying and did die of her cancer, by the way. But we were able to assist her in easing her life because it eased the pain. It's very good for pain and chemo detoxification, and there's some research for that that's quite interesting. But this is the same woman again. This is her other arm. This is from touching her, trying to help her up after chemo. Deep, deep bed wounds that were not healing. These wounds were not healing, they were degenerating to new flesh. In just a few days, 1 15-minute treatment per day. Now we're even better. This unit's even better now than when we started. Okay. Runner here. We plan to be very big in sports medicine. And we've even had the father of sports medicine down to check us out, the first guy into it. This was a runner who had a stone bruise. They brought him in. We have the word out down in our area. We're looking for wounds. You got a wound, I want to see it. And I have learned to look at wounds as beautiful things now, so if it's freaking you out, my attitude's a little off, that's where I'm coming from. Whenever I see wounds, I go, wow, cool. Let's heal it. Let's do something about it. So this man, in great pain, could not walk when they brought him in. This was 3 hours after the accident. They called out, I said, bring him in. This is the bruise, this is 25 minutes later. He could walk 25 minutes later. And what we notice also in the regeneration is, as it's starting to heal, there will be a dark spot or two appear. This is where the deepest injury was. Whatever he stepped on, that was the sharpest point. Whatever he hit. Right through a shoe, too. It must have been awesome. And then that heals up, and then that heals up. Now, I can speak this way to this crowd, I think, because I think most of you believe in acupuncture meridians and things like that. Think about this in another way. This poor guy, and think about it for yourself about bruises. If you have a bruise on an acupuncture meridian, you're doing internal organ damage. Believe me. And this was on some very big meridians right here, internal meridians to organs. The sooner you regenerate this stuff, the better it is for you, believe me, because your internal organs connected to that meridian start degenerating. It's very important stuff to know. That if you get a wound on a meridian, heal it as fast as you can. And we're just loaded with meridians, by the way. We're like an electrical system. Okay. Again, woman scraped her foot on concrete. It was like an open blister. Quite painful. She limped in. 15 minutes later, notice the granulation of the flesh and the amount of healing that has gone on there in just 15 minutes. And again, the miracle and the genius is your body. Her body's doing this. The light's only stimulating her. All healing is self-healing. Why don't most people self-heal? Again, you've left out the energy equation. You don't have enough energy to pull off the effect, the self-healing effect, the regeneration effect. And we're all running at pretty low energy these days because of the busy schedules, the stress in the world, and the increased electromagnetic environments that we're always dealing with wherever we go, zapping us and pulling us. If you ever put one of those meters in your car and drive down the road, as I've done, you watch it. So driving in your car, at home, we're in such an electromagnetic environment now that we need to watch that, especially in your bedroom, where you spend a lot of time at night, most people. Because if you have an underground stream that goes at a wrong angle, and the Germans are very big on this. I just was with them up in Vancouver studying this. The Germans have discovered that there's certain intersections in the cities where there's lots of wrecks. So they started doing the geo searching, and they found wherever there's a water stream, it causes, of course, as it passes through the earth, an electromagnetic field. It's quite natural. But they found at these killer intersections that there were like several crossing. So if you stopped at the stop sign, you'd become disoriented and pull out. So if there's a bad area where there's lots of accidents, maybe you could correct it. And they have literally moved intersections and the wrecks stop. Things like that. But if you have one of these going under your bed, under your house, or if you have water pipes that go under your bed, that could be tapping energy all night long. Sucking energy, neutralizing your own field. So get a dowser, there's other instrumentation, and check out your bedroom especially. If you have an electric clock that's plugged into the wall near your head, throw it away. Too many studies have shown head cancers, people sleep next to these clocks. And I'm not a conspiracy theory person at all. I know this from all the research that I've seen. I only have a battery-operated clock in my bedroom, period. If you've got one that plugs in the wall, it's got a transformer in it that puts out a huge electromagnetic field. And if you sleep with it by your head, look out. Your energy is going to be off. Your thinking is going to be off. You change some of those little things like that, your quality of your life might improve. Okay. We're also very good with simple things like poison oak and rashes and burns and things. This case, a man, poison oak here, he had opened the blister and was doing this for a day. And I saw him doing this, and I said, why don't we just try this light on it? And he reported that within the first 10 minutes, the itching went away and never came back. And you can see the type of healing that takes place. And this was 6.7 down to 6.9. And then, once you become photonically saturated to a certain point, weird things start happening, really good stuff. This was all in one day. And the marks are how many pictures I took during the day. Just erased it. Bango, gone. Gone. It's interesting, really interesting, the effect. So if we can do this to a wound, I know I can do this to your whole body. You're going to be young and fresh as long as you want to be in the future. And we're also seeing great age reversals in our larger systems. Hair going back, my hair has changed color back to its darker, earlier color. My eyebrows have gotten real dark and black. And also, I'm an omnivore. I eat everything. I mean, ice cream, I eat it all because I believe consciousness is important first, and then the calories don't matter because the consciousness controls that actually. It really does. If every time you put something in your mouth, you have a mantra, as mine is automatically now, food represents no issues, and I don't need any fat cells, you will lose weight and go down to where your body should be and never gain a pound. I'm an example of that. I used to be really big, like a 46, until I learned this technique. And this has been 6 years ago. I have not changed my diet one iota. I eat ho-hos when I want to. And my body went down to a size 36 and has never gained a pound since because I changed this. And I'm consistent. And this is something important for you to remember. We're children and we're very inconsistent. That's why you don't get what you want in healing and other things. You must learn to be consistent. And if you are consistent enough, the universe will make it happen for you. The entire universe will create with you. But if you're not consistent, it goes, wait a minute, I'm just going to wait till you make up your mind. And then life becomes like a crapshoot. Sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you're not. But if you want to be consistently lucky, be consistent. Consistency to this form of consciousness is the key, whether you're metaphysical or not, whether you're in business, art, or just life. If you are consistent, the universe will do everything to see that you get what you want, if it's good for the whole. Now that's the other thing. But most stuff is really. So what you see here is what you can do with biophotonics, and what we have been doing is we have been testing people of all ages, all belief systems, and all kinds of diets for quite a while now. And we write all that down, and we get it all down. What kind of diet are you on? What kind of food products? What kind of medications? What's your belief system? All that kind of thing. And I wanted to develop a system that would work for anybody, no matter what their age, no matter what their belief system, and we have accomplished that. Most of the people that are now consultants with the company were skeptical in the beginning. Some big hitters, they just couldn't believe it. But we treated them, and they're now on board. And about half of them became investors also, which is, I think, kind of interesting. They really believe in the product. So now I'll just slip this in. We try not to get into major diseases at this time because I think they serve a purpose, and we can talk about that later if you want to. But this woman was introduced to me by a doctor friend of mine who was treating her for scleroderma. You know what that is? It's pretty bad stuff. You wouldn't want to die that way. It's terminal, in her case. It's where your skin shrinks off your body. And she can't bend her elbows. If she does, the skin splits. It makes her look... She's only 24. Only 24. She's in advanced scleroderma. It has affected her mind. She's in this picture, she is on heavy pain medication. She was not present. Now, we began to work with her, and I'm so focused these days, I for love or money, I cannot get off track of what I'm doing. So I felt for her, and I asked my friend, don't introduce me to her, please. I'll get involved. I got too much going. He did, and I got involved. I really really felt for her.